Welcome back, IB Economics students, to this video lecture. Here on the rule of diminishing returns, or sometimes called the hypothesis of diminishing return, or the law of diminishing returns. Okay, whatever you call it, this is concerning the concept of diminishing return. This is very, very important for our upcoming chapter called Costs, Revenues, and Profits, where we was very heavy, very one of the hardest syllabus chapters in microeconomics and the IB economics course as a whole. However, it is all based on the basic foundational concept of the rule of diminishing returns. Okay, so what is the rule of diminishing returns actually state? Okay, what does this rule actually state? So in layman's terms, it means an extra unit of variable factor as extra units of a variable factor are added to a given quantity of fixed factor. The output from each additional unit of the variable factor will eventually diminish. Okay? So, this is a very heavy claim. I'm going to break this down so it's easier for explanation and examination. So in order to understand the rule of diminishing return, the first thing we have to identify is what is short versus long term. Okay, so in economics, we often talk about the short term versus the long term. What does this mean? It doesn't really refer to a time period. However, it refers to a short term refers to when at least one factor of production is fixed or does not change. Okay, what are factors of production? A quick review was say it is either capital, technology, labor, or tools. Okay, these are all factors of production. So in the short term, that's what it refers to. In the long term, it refers to when all factors of production are variable. So when talking about the rule of diminishing returns, we talk about the short term, okay, where at least one variable, one production variable, a factor of production is actually fixed. So what does the rule of diminishing return means? Rule of diminishing return basically, let me give you an example. So let me insert a table right here. Okay, so let's say you own you own a pizza shop. Okay, so this is an illustration of pizza production quantities when labor changes. Now, let's identify the variable factor right here. So the variable factor right here is labor. Okay, when labor is 0, when labor is 1, when labor is 2, when labor is 3, when labor is 4. Let's go to 5. 5 is a good number. Insert row below when labor is actually 5. Okay, so let's say when labor is 0, there is a total output. Okay, let me insert row above. So this is labor, and this is the pizza QS output. Okay, so when there is 0 quantity of labor, of course there's 0 pizza output. And when there's 1 laborer, when there's 1 chef, because there's so many things you have to do. You have to get ready for the dough, you have to be a cashier, you have to make the pizza, you have to bake the pizza, add the toppings. You're so busy, you can only create 3 pizzas. Okay, you can only create 3 pizzas. However, if you hire another worker, yeah, more specialized, right? Perhaps this person is in charge of preparing the materials, and this person is in charge of assembling it, okay, and baking it. So therefore, you were able to make 8 pizzas. When 3 laborers are hired, they're able to create 20 pizzas because each person is more specialized, and you can able to take advantage of economies of scale. So you're able to create 20. However, when you start to hire the fourth laborer, because there's actually quite a lot of people, so you already start having diminishing returns. So you have 33 additional. So the more labor you have, the more pizza quantity you can have. Of course, that makes sense because with more labor, there's less. Each person could have doing more work, therefore the production quantity increases. However, let's say because your kitchen is so small, or your restaurant is so small, if you hire an additional worker, your production actually decreases because people start bumping into each other. There's not enough room, so your production quantity actually decreases when you hire another additional quantity, or additional unit of labor. Therefore, we get what we get, which is diminishing marginal returns, or in this case, diminishing returns. Okay, so which is in line with what we talked about, which is in line with um as we add too many variable factors, the product will eventually diminish. So it is not just in this pizza example, it is also in a variety of different examples. For example, we could see this in a very basic analogy. You see, if we type with one hand, we type very slowly, right? If we type with two hands, we type faster. However, if we type with three hands, perhaps we may be able to type a little bit faster. Now, if we type with four hands, we're going to be entering into the regions of diminishing returns because there are so many hands, and typing, our output actually decreases as a result. Therefore, economists looks at this trend and see and comes up with the hypothesis of the diminishing return, or the theory of diminishing returns. Now, how do we graph the theory of diminishing returns in graphic form? Okay, let's graph this theory in graphic form. So of course we have a x-axis and y-axis. In our x-axis, let's label it output. In a y-axis, let's label it output. In our x-axis, let's label it input. Okay. So in this example, our input will be labor, which is labor. So our input is labor, and our output is pizza quantity. So from this graph, what we'll be able to get is a curve that looks something like this. So it increases greatly, and it plateaus off, and it enters the rule of diminishing returns. So this is basically what the curve would look like under the rule of diminishing returns. Now, under this section, we can see three major sections. Okay, this is the first section. Okay, this first section is what we call, I'm going to put this blue. Okay, this first section is what we call increasing marginal returns. Okay, because for every additional input of labor, we are getting increasing marginal returns. From this part to right here, okay, we see the increase plateauing, right, or the increase decreasing. So what we called what do we call this section? We call this section the increasing, the correlative marginal increase in returns. So this is what we call the correlative marginal increase in returns. This is when the increase in marginal returns starts decreasing. Okay, the increase in marginal returns starts to decrease. So we can see the slope of it actually decreasing, and from right here we can see actually diminishing marginal returns. What are diminishing marginal returns? Diminishing marginal returns are when additional input or additional variable input that you put actually harms your existing output, actually decreases your existing output. So this is what we call negative or diminishing marginal returns. So that's what we call diminishing marginal returns. Now, in addition to economics, we could also see the concept of diminishing marginal returns in other sectors. For example, if you I'm assuming you're IB economics student, so you're studying for a test, right? If you study for 1 hour, you will be increasing in marginal returns. You will be able to increase your score by a lot. If you study for 3 hours, perhaps you're able to increase your test score. However, the increases decreases by a bit. Now, if you don't sleep at all, if you study all night long, if you study for like 16 hours, you'll be entering negative diminishing returns because you're so tired. Perhaps during your exam, you fell asleep. You're not able to focus during the exam because you're so tired because you didn't sleep. Therefore, the theory of diminishing marginal return also applies to your scenario. So it is very important that you understand the concept of diminishing marginal returns, and for this is a cornerstone idea, and this is a very crucial idea when it comes to this chapter. I hope this video is helpful. If it does, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.